Emma sat on the edge of her dorm bed, staring at the framed photo on her desk. It was a picture of her and her mother Karen from years ago, a barely 7. Grinning in a bright yellow dress, and Karen holding her close with a soft, tired smile. Emma traced the outline of her mother's face with her finger, feeling a pang she couldn't quite name. It wasn't sadness exactly, it was something quieter, deeper, a longing she had carried with her for as long as she could remember. College had been Emma's escape, a place where she could make friends, explore new ideas, and taste a little freedom. Yet no matter how many new experiences she collected, there was always that empty corner in her chest, a place reserved for her mother's presence, one she rarely felt fully. She sighed and glanced at the window. The city lights flickered like distant stars, each one a reminder that the world outside kept moving, while she often felt stuck between who she was and who she wanted to be. Emma's life was full of laughter and moments of joy, but tonight, something in her whispered that it was time to return home. The train ride was quiet. Emma watched the streets blur past, imagining her mother moving through the kitchen. Maybe humming one of the old songs she used to sing when Emma was small? She wondered if her mother thought about her as much as she thought about her. The distance between them was felt equally on both sides. When Emma finally stepped off the train, the cool evening air brushed against her face. She carried her small suitcase with her, each step heavier than the last, though not from fatigue. It was the weight of anticipation, the fear of disappointment, and the hope of connection all wrapped up together. The neighborhood looked the same, the familiar trees, the row of small houses with their glowing windows, but to Emma, everything felt different. She was different. She paused at her front door, her hand resting on the doorknob. A part of her hesitated. What if nothing had changed? What if she was still just the quiet, awkward girl who never quite fit into her mother's world? But another part of her pushed forward. Tonight, she promised herself she would try. Not just to talk, but to really connect. To bridge the invisible gap that had grown between them over the years. When the door opened, the scent of cinnamon and warm bread immediately wrapped around her like a familiar hug. Emma's stomach tightened. She hadn't realized how much she had missed the smell of her mother's home. The comforting aroma that made the house feel alive. Karen was at the stove, carefully arranging plates. She looked up and froze for a moment, her eyes widening slightly before softening into a gentle smile. "Emma, you're home early," she said, her voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of surprise. Emma smiled nervously. I wanted to be here tonight," she said. It sounded awkward even to her own ears, but it was honest. It was everything she wanted to convey, that she needed this night to be different. To be real, Karen stepped aside and gestured for Emma to enter. "Well, I'm glad you are. I've been baking. I thought we could catch up." There was something tender in her tone. An invitation Emma had longed to hear, but rarely had the courage to accept. They moved to the kitchen, where the warm light from the overhead lamp made the space glow softly. Emma took a seat at the table and watched her mother work, noticing little things she had overlooked before. The way Karen's hair fell into her eyes, the careful way she wiped flour from her hands, the quiet rhythm of her movements. Emma realized she had been so focused on distance that she had never really looked at her mother. Not like this. Not in a way that truly saw her. "Do you want to help?" Karen asked suddenly, breaking Emma from her thoughts. Emma nodded, moving closer. They worked together in silence, chopping vegetables, stirring batter, sharing small smiles. It felt natural, yet charged with emotion, like they were learning each other again. Emma felt a strange mix of hope and fear. Hope that this night could be different, that walls could crumble, that distance could shrink. Fear that it wouldn't, that once tomorrow came, the silence would return. She swallowed hard and decided that no matter what, she would try. She would open her heart, even if only for a moment, and then, as Karen paused and looked at her, something in Emma shifted. The longing she had carried for years, the quiet, aching desire to feel close, seemed almost tangible in the room. She realized that tonight wasn't just another evening at home. Tonight could be the night they truly connected. Emma reached for her mother's hand, a small gesture full of courage. Karen didn't pull away. Instead, she let her fingers rest in Emma's. A subtle acknowledgement that yes, this could be a turning point. The night had just begun, but already, Emma felt the first fragile threads of something she had dreamed of for so long. Closeness, understanding, and a bond that might finally bridge the gap between mother and daughter. And as the oven timer dinged and Karen laughed softly, Emma knew that something precious was about to unfold. The soft hum of the oven filled the kitchen as Emma and Karen settled into a quiet rhythm. The warm light made the room feel timeless, like a space outside the rush of the world. Emma watched her mother's hands move, precise and familiar, and felt a flood of memories she hadn't thought about in years. She remembered mornings from her childhood when Karen would wake her up with a gentle shake and a soft, time to rise, sleepy head. She remembered the smell of pancakes on Sunday mornings, the sound of laughter bouncing off the walls, and the comfort of curling up beside her mother with a blanket and a book. Those small, ordinary moments had once made her feel completely safe, completely loved. But life had a way of shifting things. As Emma grew older, the pace of life picked up, and the closeness that once came so naturally began to fade. College, work, responsibilities, they all pulled them apart, and unspoken words stacked between them. It's like invisible walls neither knew how to tear down. Do you remember the time we tried to bake a cake together and ended up with flour everywhere? Karen asked suddenly, her eyes twinkling. She laughed softly at the memory. Emma smiled, picturing herself as a small girl, covered in white powder from head to toe. I think I cried because I thought I had ruined it, she said, shaking her head with a laugh that echoed the past. And you just laughed and said it was the best cake you ever saw. Karen's smile softened. You know, it wasn't about the cake. It was about us being together. Her voice carried a warmth Emma hadn't realized she had been craving so much. For a moment, the kitchen felt like a bridge across time. Emma felt herself leaning into the memory, letting it mix with the present. The laughter, the closeness, the shared mistakes, they weren't gone. They had just been hidden under years of distance and routine. Karen pulled out an old photo album from the counter. The edges frayed, the pages yellowed. I thought you might like to see some old pictures, she said gently. Emma nodded, her fingers brushing over the worn cover. The first photo was of a younger Karen, holding a tiny, chubby Emma, her eyes full of love and pride. Emma could see the sparkle in her mother's eyes. It's the same spark she remembered from her own childhood. There we are, Karen said softly. You were so curious about everything, always asking questions. I sometimes worried I couldn't keep up with your energy. Emma felt a lump in her throat. She had spent so many years believing that her mother didn't understand her, but looking at that photo, she realized that the love had always been there, steady and constant, even if unspoken. As they flipped through more pictures, memories flowed: birthday parties with friends who had long since moved away, Christmas mornings with homemade gifts, quiet afternoons in the backyard watching clouds drift across the sky. Each photo was a reminder of the bond they had shared, of the laughter and warmth that had once felt effortless. But between the smiles in the photos and the present moment, Emma could sense the gap that had grown over time. She knew the reasons: work, stress, misunderstandings, but it didn't lessen the ache she felt for the closeness that had once been theirs. Karen closed the album and looked at Emma, her eyes soft. I know we haven't always been close lately, she said, choosing her words carefully. But I want you to know I've always loved you. I just didn't always know the right way to show it. Emma's chest tightened. The words were simple, but they carried a weight she had longed to hear. I know, Mom, she whispered. I think I just miss feeling that closeness. Missed feeling like we really understood each other. Karen reached across the table and took Emma's hand again. Then let's start now, she said softly. Let's not wait for perfect timing or special occasions. Let's just be here together. Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest. The kind that comes from realizing that connection isn't about grand gestures or dramatic moments. It's about showing up, being present, and letting someone know they matter. They stayed there for a long time, holding hands, talking about small memories, laughing at the silly things they had done, and even the times they had misunderstood each other. Emma realized that the distance that had felt so insurmountable was beginning to shrink. Every shared story, every gentle smile, every word of reassurance was weaving the threads of their bond tighter again. In that quiet kitchen, Emma understood something profound. Love doesn't always need words, and closeness isn't always loud. Sometimes it's found in small moments, in shared laughter, in the recognition that someone has always been there, even when life. The kitchen was quiet now, except for the gentle clinking of teacups and the soft hum of the evening outside. Emma and Karen sat across from each other at the small table, the warmth of the tea in their hands matching the growing warmth between them. It felt different this time, more real, more alive. The walls that had seemed so high for so long now felt fragile, almost ready to fall. Emma reached for the photo album again, flipping it open slowly. She paused at a picture of herself at 8 years old, sitting on the porch steps with a book in her lap. Her mother beside her, a gentle smile on her face. She had almost forgotten this day, the soft sunlight, the quiet companionship, the sense of peace that came from simply being together. Karen leaned in, her eyes catching the same photo. "I remember that day," she said softly. "You were so focused on your book that you barely noticed me. But I didn't mind. I just wanted to sit there with you." Emma smiled, feeling a tender ache in her chest. It was as if fate itself had placed this moment in front of her, a reminder that closeness had once existed and could exist again. She realized how easily it could have been overlooked, the small acts, the quiet presence, but here it was, undeniable and waiting. "I guess I never really noticed how much I missed this," Emma admitted. "Just sitting with you, talking, laughing. It feels like I forgot what that was like." Karen reached across the table and brushed a loose strand of hair behind Emma's ear. It was a gesture so simple, so familiar, and yet it carried a weight of love and longing that Emma hadn't realized she craved. "I think we both did," Karen said gently. "Life gets in the way, doesn't it? And suddenly, years pass without us even realizing it." The words hung in the air, a quiet acknowledgement of all the time they had lost, and all the time they still had to recover. Emma's heart beat faster, not from excitement, but from the profound realization that connection was possible, that the love she had always felt was still alive, waiting for them to nurture it again, as if on cue. A small event sparked a deeper sense of intimacy. Karen's phone buzzed and she picked it up, only to find it was a reminder she had set months ago about a local art exhibit, one she had once wanted to take. Emma too, but never had the chance. She laughed softly, showing it to her daughter. "I thought about taking you to this a long time ago, but life happened." Emma's eyes lit up. "Why don't we go tomorrow?" she suggested. "It could be like old times, just us." Karen's smile deepened. "I'd like that." There was a gentle hope in her eyes, a subtle promise of shared moments yet to come. And in that promise, Emma felt something stir, a mix of nostalgia, anticipation, and a renewed closeness she hadn't dared to hope for. They lingered over the tea, each sip carrying more than flavor. It carried connection, understanding, and the realization that small events, a shared memory, a forgotten plan, a gentle smile could reignite feelings that had been buried under years of distance. Emma looked around the kitchen, noticing things she hadn't seen before, the way sunlight through the window caught the edges of the cabinets, the slight tilt of the old clock on the wall, the careful way her mother had arranged the flowers on the windowsill. Everything seemed infused with meaning, as if the present itself had become charged with emotion. Karen noticed Emma's gaze and reached for her hand once more, holding it in a quiet, deliberate way. "I think we're finally finding our way back to each other," she said softly. Emma nodded, a lump forming in her throat. "I've wanted this for so long," she admitted. "Just to feel like we're really together again." Karen's eyes glistened, and she gave a gentle squeeze. "Me too, Emma. Me too." The night stretched on, but neither felt the need to fill it with words. The silence between them was full of understanding and unspoken affection, a connection deeper than any conversation could convey. Emma realized that intimacy wasn't about dramatic declarations or grand gestures. It was about noticing each other, being present, and cherishing the small moments that made life feel meaningful. As the clock ticked past 10, a gentle breeze drifted through the open window, carrying with it the cool scent of autumn leaves. Emma shivered slightly, and Karen instinctively draped a soft blanket over her shoulders. The gesture was instinctive, maternal, yet it held a profound emotional significance. It symbolized care, protection, and a desire to nurture the closeness they were rediscovering. Emma felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. In this quiet evening, with its gentle coincidences and tender gestures, she realized something important. The past had shaped them. The distance had tested them, but the present, this moment, was theirs to embrace. Fate, it seemed, had a subtle way of guiding people back together, if only they were willing to notice the signs. Karen smiled at her daughter, a soft, genuine smile that spoke volumes. Emma smiled back, and in that simple exchange, they both understood that their bond was no longer just a memory. It was alive, fragile but strong, and ready to grow anew. For the first time in years, Emma felt fully present, fully connected, and fully hopeful. The evening wasn't just a reunion. It was a reminder that love, understanding, and closeness could be reignited. One small gesture, one shared memory, and one heartfelt conversation at a time. And as the night deepened, with the city quiet outside and the warmth of the kitchen surrounding them, Emma knew that the journey back to her mother's heart had truly begun. The night had settled softly over the house, draping everything in quiet shadows and the gentle hum of the evening. Emma and Karen remained in the kitchen, the remnants of teacups and a few crumbs on the table between them. There was a stillness now, not awkward, but expectant, as if the space itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to be said. Emma stared down at her hands, twisting them nervously. She wanted to speak, to tell her mother the feelings she had kept locked away for years, the longing, the sadness, the moments when she had wished for just a little more closeness. But the words felt heavy, too fragile to release all at once. Karen watched her daughter quietly. Sensing the hesitation in her posture, she too had feelings that had never found the right words, the regrets, the moments she had been too busy or too distracted to offer comfort, the quiet sorrow of knowing the distance had grown between them when she had wanted nothing more than closeness. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice soft and unsteady. "Mom, I think I've missed so much. I miss the way things used to be, the way we laughed together, the way it felt like. I don't know. We understood each other." She looked up, eyes glistening in the warm lamplight, searching for a response. Karen's lips curved into a gentle, sad smile. "I know, honey. I missed it too. More than I realized, I think. I was always worried I wasn't doing enough, or that I wasn't saying the right things. And so I said less, even when I wanted to say more." Emma swallowed hard, feeling the familiar ache of longing in her chest. "I never wanted to make you feel like I didn't care," she admitted. "I guess I just didn't know how to reach you sometimes." Karen reached across the table and took Emma's hands in hers, holding them with a quiet tenderness that carried years of unspoken emotion. "We were both trying in our own ways," she said softly. "Sometimes we miss each other, even when we're right beside each other." The words hung between them, a delicate bridge over the years of silence and distance. Emma felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, not tears of sorrow, but of relief, of recognition that finally the emotions that had remained bottled up for so long were being acknowledged. "I've carried this feeling for years," Emma whispered, "like a quiet emptiness. I wanted to be close, but I didn't know how. And sometimes it felt like maybe you didn't want it either." Karen shook her head gently. "Oh, Emma, nothing could be further from the truth. I always wanted it. I think I just didn't know how to show it without overwhelming you. I was afraid that my own struggles might push you away, so I held back. There was a pause, a moment of stillness in which both women simply breathed, letting the words settle around them. The tension of years of unspoken feelings began to soften, replaced by a fragile, growing understanding. Emma leaned forward slightly, her forehead resting against her mother's for a brief, tender moment. "I wish I had told you sooner," she murmured. Karen pressed her cheek gently to Emma's. "And I wish I had listened more, noticed more," she said. "But we're here now, and that's what matters." A quiet, almost imperceptible smile appeared on both of their faces. It wasn't a dramatic revelation or a sudden resolution, it was something much more profound. It was the quiet understanding that they had always loved each other. Even when life and circumstances had kept them apart, they sat together for a long time. Hands clasped, words spoken and unspoken swirling between them. Emma thought about the nights she had spent longing for this closeness, and Karen thought about the years she had spent hoping her daughter would understand her intentions. Now, in the gentle glow of the kitchen, the distance seemed to melt away, replaced by a renewed connection that felt delicate, yet resilient. "I've wanted this for so long," Emma admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just to be close, to really be able to share everything without fear." Karen's eyes glistened with emotion. "Me too, sweetheart. More than I can ever put into words. But maybe that's okay. Maybe it doesn't always need words. Sometimes it just needs presence, understanding, patience." Emma nodded, a sense of relief and peace settling over her. She realized that the unspoken truth between them wasn't about blame or past mistakes. It was about longing, hope, and the quiet desire to reconnect. And tonight, that truth was finally being honored. The kitchen felt warmer somehow, though the night outside had grown cooler. Emma looked at her mother and smiled softly. "I feel safe here," she said. "Safe in a way I haven't felt in years." Karen squeezed her hands gently. "And I feel the same," she replied. "We're finding our way back to each other step by step. And that's all we need." As the clock ticked quietly in the background, they remained there, connected in a way that transcended words. The unspoken feelings, the hesitation, the quiet struggles, they were no longer barriers. They were reminders of how much they had both wanted and still wanted. To be together in the warmth of that quiet evening. Emma understood something she had longed for her whole life. Love didn't need perfection, and closeness didn't need grand gestures. It only needed honesty, patience, and the courage to finally share what had been hidden for too long. And in that moment, with hands clasped and hearts quietly aligned, mother and daughter discovered that the unspoken truth, longing, love, and the desire to truly connect was finally being acknowledged. Gently and beautifully, at last. The kitchen had grown quiet again, the warm glow of the lamp casting soft shadows across the walls. Emma and Karen sat across from each other, hands still intertwined, their earlier conversation lingering like a gentle echo. The air was heavy with unspoken feelings, delicate tension that neither had dared to break. Till now, Emma shifted slightly, gathering her courage. She felt her heart racing, a mix of anticipation and fear. Tonight had already been filled with laughter, shared memories, and small revelations, but she knew there was still something she needed to say. Something she had kept inside for far too long, Mom. She began, her voice trembling just enough to reveal the depth of her emotion. Karen looked at her expectantly, her eyes full of patience and love. I think I've been holding back, and maybe you have too. But I need to tell you something. I've felt so alone sometimes, even when I was right here with you." Karen's hand squeezed Emma's gently, a silent encouragement. "I know, Emma," she said softly, "and I've felt it too. There were times I wanted to reach out, but I didn't know how. I was afraid I might hurt you instead of helping." Emma took a deep breath, her eyes glistening. "I've wanted to tell you for years that I love you, Mom. Not just as my mother, but as someone who's always been my safe place. I wanted to feel close to you, to really connect. And I was scared that maybe you didn't feel the same way." Karen's lips trembled as she fought back tears. "Oh, Emma," she whispered, "I've always loved you, more than I can ever put into words. I know I wasn't perfect, and I know there were times I didn't show it well enough. But I've never stopped wanting this closeness, never stopped wishing we could understand each other fully." The words settled between them like sunlight breaking through clouds. Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest, a mix of relief and a joy so profound it nearly overwhelmed her. All the years of hesitation, all the moments of quiet longing, seemed to converge into this single, perfect acknowledgement, I think. "I think I needed to hear you say that," Emma admitted, her voice soft but steady. "I've been carrying this weight for so long. And tonight? It feels like we can finally set it down together." Kira nodded, tears rolling quietly down her cheeks. "I've wanted that too, Emma. I've wanted to set it down. And I think we're ready to start over, to rebuild what we've been missing." For a moment, neither spoke. They simply held each other's hands, feeling the rhythm of their heartbeats, the subtle rise and fall of shared breathing. The room was still, yet charged with emotion, a silent witness to the bond that was finally being restored. Then something shifted. Emma remembered the small events that had led to this night, the shared laughter over old photographs, the forgotten art exhibit, the quiet moments of presence that had slowly bridged the gap. It was as if the universe itself had orchestrated this reunion, guiding them to speak what had remained hidden. "I've realized something tonight," Emma said finally, her voice steady, despite the tears in her eyes. "Closeness isn't about perfect timing or having all the right words. It's about showing up, being present, and being willing to be honest with each other, even when it's scary." Karen's gaze softened, full of pride and understanding. "Exactly. And we've shown up for each other tonight. That's what matters. The rest, we'll figure out together." Emma smiled through her tears, feeling the last of the year's tension dissolve. She realized that the bond she had always longed for wasn't gone yet, had simply been waiting for this moment, waiting for both of them to speak the truths that had remained unspoken for so long. "I don't want to lose this again," Emma whispered. "I don't want to let distance grow between us like it did before." Karen shook her head, a gentle smile breaking through the emotion. "We won't. We've learned something tonight. We've both seen how precious this closeness is, how easily it can be overlooked. But now that we've found it again, we'll hold on to it." Emma felt her heart swell with gratitude. She had spent so many years yearning for this connection, and now it was no longer a dream, tangible and alive. The house had grown quiet, the night deep and still, with only the soft hum of the streetlights outside as company. Emma and Karen sat together on the living room sofa, a soft blanket draped over both of them, the warmth of the evening and their connection filling the space more than the lights ever could. After all the conversations, laughter, and confessions of the past few hours, a calm had settled over them. It was a different kind of silence, comfortable, rich with understanding, and brimming with the promise of what could come next. For the first time in years, the distance that had existed between mother and daughter felt like it had dissolved entirely. Emma leaned back into the sofa, resting her head against the armrest. She let out a quiet sigh, not of exhaustion but of relief. Relief that the walls of hesitation and unspoken longing had finally come down. "I can't believe how much lighter I feel," she admitted softly, her eyes meeting her mother's. "Like a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying has been lifted." Karen smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "I feel the same," she said, her voice gentle and steady. "It's amazing how much can change when we simply speak the truth and listen to each other. I've always loved you, Emma, but tonight I think I finally feel how close we can be." Emma nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "It feels like we're finally starting over. Not because we had to, but because we want to. And I'm so glad we're doing it together." They sat in silence for a moment, letting the words settle. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees, and the occasional sound of a passing car reminded them that life continued beyond the walls of the house. Yet inside, the world felt suspended, focused entirely on the quiet. Steady heartbeat of love and connection between them. Karen reached over and held Emma's hands again. A simple gesture that spoke volumes. "I want you to know," she said softly, "that no matter where life takes you, college, work, friends, travels, you'll always have this. You'll always have me." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest, a gentle reassurance that she had never felt so deeply before. "I know, Mom, and I promise. I'll make the effort too. I don't want to lose this closeness we've found." Karen nodded, her eyes glistening. "It's not about perfection, Emma. It's about showing up, caring, and being willing to understand each other. We've learned that now, haven't we?" Emma smiled, feeling the truth in her mother's words. "Yes, we have." As the night grew deeper, they decided to look through the photo albums again, reminiscing over birthdays, holidays, and everyday moments they had shared. But this time, the experience felt different. Every memory was colored not just by nostalgia, but by the newfound understanding and connection they had cultivated. "I never realized," Emma said thoughtfully, "how much these little things mattered. The laughter, the quiet moments, the stories. They were always building this bond, even when I didn't see it." Karen smiled, nodding. "Life gets busy, and sometimes we miss the signs of love and care. But it's never too late to notice them, to appreciate them, and to carry them forward." They talked late into the night, sharing hopes for the future, dreams they had been hesitant to voice, and small plans for the days to come. There was no rush, no urgency, just a quiet, steady presence that spoke more than words ever could. Eventually, Emma yawned, the comfort of the evening mingling with the weight of the day. Karen guided her to the guest room, ensuring she was comfortable. But before leaving, she paused in the doorway, looking back at her daughter with a tender smile. "Good night, Emma," she said softly. "Remember, we're always here for each other. Always." Emma smiled, feeling a profound sense of peace. "Good night, Mom. I love you." Karen's heart swelled, and she whispered the words she had been longing to say for years. "I love you too, Emma, always." As the door closed gently behind her, Emma lay in bed, reflecting on the night. The quiet moments, the laughter, the shared confessions, they had all led to this one simple truth. Love and understanding could bridge any distance, heal old wounds, and create a bond that would endure. She drifted off to sleep with a calm certainty that tomorrow and every day after would carry the warmth and closeness they had rediscovered. It was not a fleeting feeling or a temporary fix, it was a beginning, a promise and a gentle reminder that love, patience, and honesty could transform relationships in ways that words alone could never capture. Meanwhile, Karen sat by the window for a moment, gazing at the soft glow of the city outside. She felt gratitude for the evening, for the courage they both had shown, and for the quiet miracles of reconnection that sometimes only life could bring. She knew there would still be challenges ahead, days when work, responsibilities, or misunderstandings might try to pull them apart. But tonight had proven that nothing was stronger than the willingness to truly connect. The night ended with a sense of closure and hope, a gentle affirmation that their bond was no longer defined by distance or silence. Emma and Karen had found each other again, and in doing so, they had discovered the quiet, enduring power of love. For mother and daughter alike, the evening would always remain a treasured memory, a night of reconnection, understanding, and the promise of a future filled with warmth, closeness, and shared moments that mattered more than anything else in the world. And in that promise, both found a quiet joy, simple, profound, and everlasting.